Hi everyone, I'm Miss Hamilton with IMS TV, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make garlic Parmesan knots. So I'm going to start off a kitchen lab as usual by washing my hands for 20 seconds. My hair is tied back and I have my apron on. So throughout the lab you can follow along with the garlic Parmesan knot recipe, which you can find on your e-board. I gave you a copy of the recipe in class. As you follow, please fill out the management sheet so you'll be ready to participate in the lab the following day in school. So first off, I'm going to go over what ingredients we need for the garlic Parmesan knots. You need 1 package of biscuits. You're going to use 3 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese. You're going to need some garlic powder, oregano, parsley, and a little bit of salt. We're also going to be using melted butter, okay, 1 tablespoon. And in case you've never noticed, on the package of the sticks of butter, you have the tablespoons labeled. So I already did this by cutting 1 tablespoon of butter. I put it in a little custard cup and I melted it in the microwave for about 10 seconds. Okay, so in our recipe it says step 1 is to preheat the oven to 425 degrees. So I'm going to come over, turn on my oven. All I'm going to do is turn the dial to the right, push it and turn, until the line is lined up with 425. Once the oven is on, I'm going to see this red light, and then we're going to wait for it to preheat. While the oven's preheating, I'm going to line my baking sheet with parchment paper. Okay, so here's my baking pan, and my parchment paper. And you want to cut the parchment paper to the size of the baking sheet. So I'm going to line it up. Just gently pull down and tear. I'm going to flip it over so it's the exact size of the pan. Parchment paper is going to prevent our garlic knots from sticking when they're in the oven. So I don't need to spray this baking sheet at all because the parchment paper is doing that for us. I'm going to set it aside for now. Okay. Step 2 says to open the can of biscuits by twisting the can. So first I'm going to show you a regular can of biscuits. In order to open up the can, you need to find a silver tab. Okay, once you find the silver tab, you're going to gently take your nail and undo the tab. Okay, gently pull. Okay, as so. Once I find that, let's go and just unwrap the biscuits. These are Poppin' Fresh biscuits. So once I unwrap the can, it's going to pop open. If it doesn't automatically, you can start to twist, and it pops open. It's always fun. Alright, so I'm going to open up my can of biscuits, take out all 10 pieces, and separate them on my baking mat. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's get the rest out. 8, 9, and 10. So we're going to have 10 knots today. Okay. Step 2 also says that you need to roll out the biscuits into long rod shapes, or almost like a snake shape. So I'm going to take each biscuit and I'm going to shape it into a rod or like a snake. Okay, you want this to be about 6 to 7 inches long. Okay, you could also put it down onto the baking mat, okay, and gently roll it out using the palm of your hand and your fingertips. The most important thing is that you have the biscuit long enough that you'll be able to make the knot shape. Okay, so here the biscuit's about 6 to 7 inches long, and in order to make the knot, all you're going to do is take the ends, cross them like an awareness ribbon, and then you're going to take one of the ends and tuck it underneath and through the hole. Okay, to make that knot shape. Doesn't have to be perfect because they're going to rise and expand in the oven. So once you have one knot done, place it on the baking sheet. You can move on to the next. I'm going to continue doing that till I have all 10 biscuits on my baking sheet. So here we have all of our garlic knots shaped, and they're ready to go into the oven. At this point, our oven is preheated, and the reason I know that is either because the oven beeped, or with this particular oven, the oven light turned off. So now I know that the oven is to temperature, which was 425 degrees. I always want to use my oven mitts whenever I'm reaching in or out of the oven. Okay, I'm going to step to the side, pull out the tray just a little bit. I'm going to bend down and gently place the knots and the tray in the oven. Close the oven door gently, and now I'm going to set my timer. Okay, the knots need to bake for 8 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer, hit timer on, set time, hit the plus sign until I get to 8, and then I'm just going to let it go. Once this green light is steady, I know that the timer is set. Okay. While the garlic knots are baking in the oven, I'm going to make my cheese mix. Now we're on the back. So it says, while the knots are in the oven, pour 3 tablespoons of fresh Parmesan cheese, my favorite, in a medium-sized bowl. Okay, we want to do all of our measuring work on wax paper. The reason for that is in case I spill, it's not on my counter, it spills onto the wax paper, and it's less cleanup at the end. I'm going to put my bowl over my wax paper. Okay. My grated cheese. Take my 3 tablespoons. Okay. Dunk it in and just lightly tap. Here's 1 tablespoon. Tap. 2 tablespoons. And 3 tablespoons of the Parmesan cheese. And again, the tablespoon is the largest spoon in the set. Next, we're going to add our dried parsley, oregano, and our salt and garlic powder. So I need to use 1 teaspoon of parsley. I'm going to take the top off, and I'm going to dunk the teaspoon into the can. Okay, my 1 teaspoon. Put that in, and just tap the excess back into the container. 1 teaspoon of parsley. Cap back on, nice and tight. Next is my oregano. Again, take the top off. I'm going to put my teaspoon into the canister, tap the excess, pour that in, cap back on, nice and tight. Next is my garlic powder. which I'm using half a teaspoon. Put the spoon in, tap the excess, and it goes. And lastly is my salt. Okay, you want to make sure that you have a nice steady hand with the salt. It pours out fast, and you don't want to pour the salt over the bowl, because if you over pour, then you're going to have a salty mixture. No one likes too salty food. So, pour over my wax paper, my half teaspoon of salt, in it goes. And I'm going to mix this all together. Okay, this is what the cheese mixture looks like right before we put them onto the garlic knots. Okay, so 8 minutes is up. I'm going to hit the timer. It's time to take the knots out of the oven. So I'm going to put my oven mitts back on. Okay, and you're going to see that they're nice and golden brown. Okay, push the tray back in. Close the oven door gently and turn off the oven light. And bring these over to the counter. Now you want to be very careful because the pan is still very hot. But we need to butter the garlic knots in order to put the cheese mixture on. I'm going to take my pastry brush and glaze each knot with just a little butter. This is going to add to the golden brown color. It's also going to allow the cheese to stick to my knots. Now I'm going to take about 1 tablespoon of the cheese mixture and I'm going to sprinkle it on each one of the knots. So here I am with my tablespoon again. Get some cheese, sprinkle it on, and if there's some excess, which there will be, you can save that cheese, put it in a brown bag, put the knots inside the brown bag and shake it up like they do in a pizzeria. And then you can cover the entire knot in the cheese mixture. And I'm going to put these back in the oven for 1 more minute. So the cheese can now melt a little bit and the garlic knots can be a little more brown. And we're going to set the timer again for 1 minute. So I'm going to hit the timer on, set time, plus 1, let it go, and we're going to see the steady green light turn on. Okay, so our 1 minute's up. That means our garlic knots are all finished. I hit timer. I'm going to turn the oven to the off position. Okay, turn the dial all the way to off. Put my mitts back on. Let's see how they came out. All right, they smell amazing. Pull them out. Push the tray back in. Close the oven door. And voila. Okay, here's our finished product. Some delicious garlic Parmesan knots. Enjoy.